feel like, I just turned 32 years old a couple of days ago. I don't feel that, not to demean the seriousness of the crime or not accept responsibility for my actions, because I do, but at the same time, I feel that, 6 years is not gonna help. I feel if you give me 6, you might as well give me 20, because I'm too old to continue to be in prison like that and to keep living in that gray area in my mind. So I feel like he told me I needed to take this plea this week because I had an aggravated possession case and my trial was coming up. Well, I'm willing to waive all trial dates. I'm willing to waive all that to have more time to try to, I tried to write you a letter before this court date. I didn't realize it was gonna be this soon. I need to go back to prison. I accept that. But I also need a program after I get out of prison. I feel that because, my co-defendants chose to testify and they're basically gonna get off on it, and then I'm the one that has to take all the responsibility. I don't feel that that's fair. And I feel like I've been pressured on. I'm not saying Mr. Brady's a bad attorney, but I feel like he didn't argue on my behalf for a program. He came back and went from 2 to 6. I was asking for the time in prison, but also a program and then transition into a halfway house. That way I can re-enter society and not get high. When you're in prison, you get so stressful, you get high. You get high, you fight. You live in, I go to Lebanon. I don't go to these minimum security, medium security institutions. I go, I spent all my time in close max and supermax my whole life. I've done years in a hole. You know what I mean? Like, the people that this happened to are people that helped me. You know what I mean? And because of the drugs, I don't think about that. I don't have no help with the drugs. You know what I mean? I get out and I tell myself you're going to go good, and then you're around all these same people, and then I start getting high again, and everything that was in my mind about doing good, it leaves my mind. And I do whatever I can to get that next high. I've never had a program in my life. Never. I've always been sent to prison. Every time I've ever been convicted of a crime, I've been sent to prison. And I'm not using that as an excuse, because, at my age, I know the difference between right and wrong, but I make the wrong decisions. But I feel that, I feel like I don't want to take the recommendation. I understand it's a recommendation of 6 years, and my attorney's allowed to argue that sentence. But I'm not ready. I felt, the only reason I signed it and did it is because I lightweight gave up that day, because Mr. Brandon and me had went back and forth for over an hour, and my main focus was that Miss Fox, doesn't get sent to prison. She's a grown woman, but at the same time, she would have never been in that situation if it had not been for me. So that's all I wanted, was a program with my time and her not to go to prison. And I had no problem accepting the time that Miss Quigley was trying to give me. And then the next thing I know, 3 weeks later, he comes and is like, well, I told you to take the deal. Well, at the same time, she wasn't trying to give me any credit for jail time, and my attorney advised me that if I waited until indictment, and then I would be in jail for such a long time that you would be inclined, not that you had to, but you would be inclined to give me jail time credit. So that's why I waited. So now I feel like I'm being punished because I was trying to seek help instead of going to a prison where there's no accountability. Nobody holds you accountable for your actions in there. You know what I mean? I need something to hold me accountable. I need something that's telling me, if you do this drug, this is going to happen. You know what I mean? You put me out, and then what am I facing? 9 months to go back to prison on PRC? That's not enough. That's why I try to explain and say, I have no problem. I deserve to go to prison. I accept that. But I feel that if I don't know if the sentencing is, I know that it has the risk recidivism factors, meaning the seriousness of the crime. I know all of that. I know everything that involves. But I feel like now it's just, let's just keep sending him to prison. Let's just put him in give him life in prison in increments because he can't learn. But then again, I've never been given a program.
I don't know if Mr. Goodpaster feels at this point in time that I'm not represented adequately. I don't know if that's just fear based on the plea or if he truly wants to discuss additional issues with me. But that's my perspective on it, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Quigley, you want to chime in? You don't have to, but.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, just for clarifications, the state never offered 2 years. The state offered a 4-year prison term in which the defendant would serve 2, have 2 years hanging over his head, and he would attempt to get into the Monday program. That was the lowest that we really ever talked. He wanted 2 years to start with, but it was never agreed for 2. My first offer was 4 years with him doing 2, but cooperating and testifying against the other co-defendants. So it started out as a 4-year prison term. Then the next was an agreed 6-year prison term. And again, that wasn't agreed to. So the state is not really compelled at this point to even recommend 6. So the state is making recommendations at this sentencing. So I just wanted to clear this up. I never actually came in and said just 2 years. It was always a 4-year term with him serving 2 and then going into the Monday program if he cooperated. And it might have been even, he could do a 1.5 years to get into the Monday program, but he was gonna go to prison and then get into the Monday program with time hanging over his head.
In fairness to you, you're right after the newest indictment.
Yes.
I'm right before the new round. So, because there's only up to 2 years charge.
Because I put a 2 years charge on the priors.
So we're both right, but you're more accurate.
Right. And the state would also note that this newest indictment, which was April 28th, Mr. Braden had all the discovery that involved these burglaries back in February. So we were talking about this case and doing a potential bill of information, and that's where the 4 years came in. The 2 years went with the receiving stolen property and the drug case, which was a maximum sentence on those 2 F5s. But like I said, we had been, to talk about these burglaries, that started out with 4 and we talked about a bill of information. And like I said, back in February. So that's just the clarification on burglaries. So
You're right.
these are burglaries which carry a potential of 5 years because of the defendant's criminal history. Count 1, the burglary involved the defendant going to a residence of a family that had basically taken him in and tried to help him after he got out of prison the last time. The state would note that the family were in a program which attempted to mentor individuals coming out of prison, providing them with help, and this family went above and beyond that. And his way of paying them back was committing a breaking and entering of their business and stealing thousands of dollars of property back then. This family continued to try to assist the defendant when he went to prison for that offense. And again, when he gets out of prison, they open their home and try to assist him, try to provide him with the structure and backing that he needed to re-enter society. His statements today really fall flat because he's saying, I need things to be held over my head. Well, he had parole hanging over his head. He needed a program to assist him. Well, he had people to assist him. He had more than most people coming out of prison have. He had mentors who were willing to step up and assist him, provide him with financial and job security, where many people don't have that. And he blew it. And he can blame drugs, but it isn't drugs. It's his choices. His choice was to go back with those friends. His choice was to start using drugs again. And his choice at this point was to break into this family's home